Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into something that's, well, it's everywhere now, isn't it? Artificial intelligence, AI.
It really is. It's moving so fast from, just research labs into the core of how businesses actually run.
Absolutely. And the scale is kind of staggering.
Yeah. Think about this back in 2016, the AI software market, maybe $3 billion, give or take.
Okay.
Fast forward to next year, 2025, the projection is nearly $90 billion.
90 billion. Wow. That's explosive growth.
Exactly. So it's not some far-off future thing anymore. It's becoming fundamental, baked into organizational processes.
Right, and that's precisely why we're doing this deep dive. If you're listening and you're maybe new to auditing or new to AI, or perhaps both, this is for you. We want to clarify why, as an auditor, you really need to pay attention to AI, and maybe more importantly, how the profession is already stepping up.
Yeah, how we're contributing to, let's say, its responsible advancement.
Okay, so first things first, let's get on the same page. What exactly is AI? Definitions can be a bit fuzzy sometimes.
They can be. A good starting point, though, is Russell and Norvig's definition. They talk about AI as the study of intelligent agents.
Intelligent agents. Okay, break that down a bit.
Think of them as systems, devices, whatever, that can perceive their environment, take in information, and then act in a way that maximizes their chances of hitting specific goals.
So it's not just following code line by line. It's about perceiving, deciding, achieving goals. Adaptable, maybe?
Exactly. It can learn and adapt. And that leads us to machine learning, which you hear about all the time alongside AI.
Right, ML. How does that fit in?
So if AI is the big umbrella, the whole orchestra, machine learning is a key section. It's specifically about computers learning from data without being explicitly programmed for every single scenario.
Okay, so traditional software has fixed rules, but ML systems evolve as they see more data.
You got it. They learn patterns, make predictions, improve over time based on the data they process.
Gotcha. So our mission today...
Our mission, yeah, is to give you, the listener, a solid foundation for understanding how to audit AI, why it's crucial, and how we can actually use existing tools like COBIT 2019 to navigate this.
Right, ensuring AI is used responsibly, effectively, makes sense.
It's all about providing that assurance.
Okay, let's tackle that core question then. Why should auditors care? Isn't this more for the data scientists, the IT folks?
That's a really common first reaction, understandable. But look at how AI is just weaving its way into everything: finance, healthcare, retail, you name it.
It's unavoidable, basically.
Pretty much. It's becoming a critical business technology. And what's the auditor's fundamental role?
Providing assurance over business processes, over technology.
Exactly. So if AI is now a key part of those processes and technologies, well, auditors need to be involved. We need to provide that assurance.
Okay, so whether it's, I don't know, automating customer service chats or optimizing logistics or even spotting fraud.
All of those.
Auditors need to assess, is it working right? Is the data reliable? Are the controls in place to manage the risks?
Precisely. But, and this is a big but, auditing AI isn't just like auditing any other IT system. There are some unique hurdles.
Okay, like what?
Well, for starters, the white paper points out there aren't really mature AI-specific audit frameworks or regulations yet. It's still early days.
So no standard playbook?
Not really, not a widely adopted one. Even frameworks like CRISP-BDM, that's the cross-industry standard process for data mining, came out in 2018, haven't quite led to, let's say, universal audit approaches for all the different ways AI is used.
That makes sense. If the tech is evolving so fast, the rule book struggles to keep up, right?
Exactly. It's like trying to write traffic laws while cars are still being invented and redesigned every month.
Yeah, okay. What else?
Well, there's also the fact that even within IT circles, even among auditors, there isn't one single agreed-upon definition of AI.
Really? Still?
Yeah, people might mean slightly different things. And when you don't have a common language, developing consistent audit practices gets, well, harder.
And I bet the sheer variety of AI systems makes it complex, too. It's not just one thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got everything from fairly simple automation bots to really complex deep learning models. It's a huge spectrum, different tech, different approaches.
Which must make it tough just to figure out what AI a company is actually using sometimes. The scope could be tricky.
Very tricky. And add to that, a lot of companies outsource AI development.
Third parties.
Right. So the understanding of how the system works might be split across different vendors, making it harder for an internal auditor to get the full picture.
The paper also mentions the black box effect, particularly with machine learning. What does that mean for an auditor who's maybe not a coder?
Yeah, the black box. It basically means it can sometimes be really hard to pinpoint exactly why a specific machine learning model made a particular decision or prediction. The internal logic can be very complex, almost opaque.
Okay, that sounds concerning for an audit.
It can sound that way, but here's the crucial part for traditional IT auditors. Your main job usually isn't to crack open that black box and audit the algorithm's math.
Oh, okay. So what is the focus then?
It's more about the governance around the AI. How is it developed? How is it tested? How is it monitored? How does it fit into the existing control environment? How is data handled?
So ensuring good processes and controls around the AI rather than needing to be an AI algorithm expert yourself.
It's about the system it operates within. Now, for really high-risk AI, you might bring in specialists, model validators, people like that, for a deeper dive. But for the general IT auditor, understanding the governance is key.
That's reassuring.
And, the paper mentions that while there's tons of academic research on AI, it's often super technical, not really aimed at the practical needs of an auditor trying to figure out what tests to run next week.
Right. Academics push boundaries. Auditors need practical, applicable guidance for today's business reality.
Exactly. And another point the paper makes is that many companies are still figuring things out. They might not have clear documented plans yet for how AI fits their strategy or how they'll even measure if it's paying off.
So there's a gap between the tech adoption and the strategic planning sometimes?
Often, yeah, especially in these early stages. But as AI gets more embedded, you can bet executives will start demanding more clarity, more accountability.
And that's where auditors come in again.
Big opportunity. Auditors can provide valuable insights by applying robust frameworks like COBIT 2019 to assess everything from the high-level strategy down to the nitty-gritty operational controls for AI.
It sounds a bit like how auditing tackled cloud computing or even cybersecurity when those were newer.
How so?
Well, auditors didn't instantly become cloud architects or master hackers, right? The initial focus was heavily on the governance, the controls, the risk management around those technologies.
That's a really good analogy. The paper makes that exact parallel. Just like with cloud, the primary focus for AI auditing, especially now, is on evaluating the governance structures and the controls. Are they effective? Are they appropriate for the risks?
Okay, so we leverage what we already know about IT governance and control frameworks.
Precisely. Auditors bring that essential perspective.
So speaking of frameworks, you mentioned COBIT 2019's several times. For an auditor starting out with AI, how does COBIT actually help? Where do you begin?
COBIT 2019 is super relevant here because it's so comprehensive. It gives you process descriptions, outcomes to aim for, specific practices, work products, basically a whole structured toolkit covering IT governance and management.
So it provides a map, in a way.
Yeah, a very detailed map. It helps you structure your thinking and your approach to auditing something complex like AI. You're not starting from a blank slate.
So step one isn't learn Python. It's more like apply this framework.
Exactly. According to the paper, you start by defining the scope and objectives of your AI audit. What specific part of the AI system are you looking at? What are the biggest risks you're worried about?
And document those risks.
Right. Typically in a risk and control matrix, an RCM, you map the risks to the controls you expect to find.
And COBIT helps identify those potential AI-related risks.
Absolutely. It gives you a structured way to think about risk in any IT context, AI included. The paper gives examples like the risk of AI plans not actually aligning with what the business needs.
Or IT plans just not meeting expectations.
Yeah, or maybe the high-level strategy doesn't translate properly into the detailed tactical plans for the AI project. Or simply ineffective governance. Nobody's clearly accountable for the AI processes.
These sound like fundamental IT governance issues, really, not strictly unique to AI.
That's a really important point. Many core governance principles absolutely still apply. The white paper even includes a figure 1, I think, that lists a whole bunch of COBIT objectives relevant to AI risk and control reviews.
And it's a long list. I remember seeing that. It covers governance setup, strategy, architecture, innovation, portfolio, budget, HR, vendors.
Quality, risk, security, data. It really spans the whole enterprise IT landscape.
Performance monitoring, internal controls, compliance, assurance, operations, incidents, continuity.
Security services, business process controls. Then you get into the build and implementation side.
Right.
Programs, requirements, solutions, change management, knowledge, assets.
Wow. Okay, so it really touches almost every aspect of IT management and governance.
It does, which just shows how integrated AI can become. So the message is, Don't wait for perfect AI-specific standards. You can start effectively right now using COBIT 2019.
Can you give a more concrete example? How would you use one of those objectives?
Sure. The paper dives into one specific practice, DSS 06.05. DSS 06 is about managing business process controls, and 05 is specifically about ensuring traceability and accountability for information events.
Traceability and accountability. How does that connect to AI auditing challenges?
Well, think about that black box problem. This practice is about making sure you can trace business information back to where it came from and know who's responsible. Applied to AI, it means ensuring the AI's activity logs, its audit trails, are detailed enough.
Detailed enough to understand why it made a certain decision, or at least how.
Exactly. You need enough information to reconstruct the rationale, at least to a reasonable extent. It helps provide assurance that the AI is processing information reliably and according to its objectives.
It builds trust in the output, even if you don't understand every single calculation.
Precisely. The paper quotes the description. Ensure that business information can be traced, associated with accountable parties. This discoverability provides assurance. That's the key.
So how would an auditor test this for an AI system? What would they look for?
The paper suggests looking at metrics like how often transaction history can't be recovered, or how complete the traceable logs are. And the activities involved are things like capturing the source info, defining how long to keep it, the retention requirements, and then properly disposing of it later according to policy.
So the auditor checks if these processes exist for the AI system. They look at the documentation, the retention rules, the actual logs.
Exactly. They'd evaluate those work products, the documented requirements, and sample the transaction records generated by the AI. And importantly, the paper adds a key testing criteria, which is basically asking, does the decision the AI made seem appropriate, given the inputs and what it's supposed to be doing?
So it's not just ticking boxes about process, it's applying professional judgment to the outcome as well.
It is. It brings in that element of critical thinking. Even if you're not an algorithm expert, you can assess if the output makes sense in the business context.
That's really helpful. Okay, so we have the challenges. We have COBIT as a tool. The white paper also talks about keys to success for AI auditing, right? Based on Figure 4.
Yes, it lays out several critical factors. One big one is really getting informed about the AI's design and architecture.
Understand what you're auditing, essentially.
Right. You need that foundational knowledge to set the right scope. AI isn't monolithic. It involves various technologies, programming, data storage, ML tools, cloud platforms, plus different people like data scientists, engineers. Understanding the pieces helps you audit effectively.
Makes sense. Another key was involving all stakeholders. Why is that extra important for AI?
Because AI projects often touch so many parts of the business. You've got engineering, IT security, the actual business units using the AI, maybe legal, compliance.
And external parties too, right? Especially with cloud.
Absolutely. If you're using cloud-based AI services, you've got third-party vendors involved. That brings its own risks, vendor lock-in, maybe knowledge about the system being spread out, harder to access. You need everyone talking.
Communication flows both ways too. The paper stresses proactively explaining AI to stakeholders.
Yeah, that's crucial. AI is still new and maybe a bit mysterious to many people in the organization. Stakeholders might be uninformed or even anxious.
So auditors need to be good explainers.
Definitely. Need to bridge that gap, address concerns, translate complex AI concepts into terms business leaders or others can understand. Different audiences need different levels of detail, of course.
Okay. And we've had this a few times, but adapting existing frameworks is another key point.
Right. Don't wait for the perfect AI rulebook. COBIT 2019, as we've discussed, covers a lot. Plus, existing regulations, think GDPR for data privacy, or HIPAA in healthcare, or fair lending rules often already apply to how AI is used.
So leverage what's already there.
Intelligently apply existing rules and frameworks to this new context.
And the last key mentioned was focusing on transparency through an iterative process. Why iterative?
Because AI systems, especially machine learning models, aren't usually built once and then finished. They get tuned, retrained, updated. It's an ongoing cycle.
So the audit approach needs to reflect that continuous evolution.
Exactly. Yeah. And transparency is key because of the complexity. Plus, you might find ML components popping up in standard software packages you buy. So auditors need to be vigilant, encourage good documentation throughout the AI's lifecycle, and adapt their approach.
The paper even suggested AI could become an audit tool itself eventually.
Yeah, using AI to help audit AI. A fascinating possibility down the line.
So pulling it all together, AI is undeniably transformative. huge potential, a huge impact.
No doubt about it. Which leads to a pretty fundamental question, really, for everyone listening.
Which is?
Are organizations and are we as auditors really ready for the tough questions about governing and auditing AI effectively?
It's a big question. But hopefully, the points we've discussed today, drawing on this ISACA paper, give auditors a solid starting point.
I think so. It provides a foundation for navigating this. Despite any fuzziness around definitions, AI keeps growing. It's a huge opportunity for business, for IT, and especially for the audit community to establish strong governance.
And COVID 2019 seems like a really valuable tool in that effort.
Definitely a key part of the toolkit right now. It helps ensure the audit profession plays its vital role as this technology reshapes our world.
Well, that brings us towards the end of this deep dive.
But maybe one final thought to leave with our listeners. Something to mull over.
Okay.
As we rely more and more on AI, how might that change the bedrock principles of auditing itself? Things like independence, objectivity, due professional care. How will they evolve in an AI-driven world?
That's a deep question. Definitely food for thought.
Worth considering as you continue learning about AI.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Data Podcast for Nerds. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, if you want to transition your career and become a data professional, follow me on LinkedIn for even more tips, tricks, and nerdy fun bits.